around the middle of April, we advanced into a town of about 40,000 people, I found out later, called Nordhausen. And there was something very unusually quiet. There was no resistance there. And we didn't see any people out on the street. And on the outskirts, you want to ask me something?
Yes, I wanted to ask you what the reason for that was.
Well, we figured afterward that the people were very much frightened over what had been going on in this town, and they were afraid to show their face. On the outskirts of this town, we came into a compound with a lot of bombed-out barracks, and as we rounded the corner of one of the barracks, we came upon approximately 2,400 men, women, and children lying on an open field in uniform lines, and they had all been shot in the back of the head shortly before we entered that village.
Was there no one alive?
We came across one man that was living, barely living. I doubt if he was able to live much longer. He couldn't talk.
Was there a terrible smell?
There wasn't any odor when we came in to Nordhausen because they had been killed not too much earlier.
Oh, so it was.
But by the following day,
bodies.
it was terrible.
I think in the map we can point out to those places. So could you tell us where Nordhausen is?
Well, there are two circles on the map I see, and the larger circle on the left would be where Nordhausen is, and it was about 60 miles west of Leipzig. And I don't know if you can see Leipzig on the map or not, but it's on the right side of the map.
On the right side.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the smaller circle?
The smaller circle represents a village by the name of Grima. But getting back to Nordhausen, it was necessary to have these people buried as soon as possible for health reasons, and we rounded up the citizenry, the men. And
who were these dead people? Were they Jewish people?
Well, interestingly enough, the large majority of these people were non-Jews. And but they met the same fate as most of the Jewish people did.
So in other
we
words,
understand they were political prisoners or anyone that might have stood in the way of the Nazi regime at the time.
And where did they come from mostly?
As far as I can remember, there were people there from Germany and Czechoslovakia and Hungary, different countries that had been occupied.
So you had the townspeople come in and dig pits and you buried them?
They were being buried as we moved out of that town.
How did the townspeople take to this occupation?
I talked to several townspeople, including the curator of a very small museum, and I could not find one person that would admit that they even suspected what was going on. It was really very macabre. It was.
Had any of them worked in the camp? Or
They wouldn't admit to it.
They wouldn't admit
No.
to it, right.
They, without exception, said that they thought it was a work camp of some kind on the outskirts of their town.
And no one heard shooting of 2,400 people?
No one heard anything, and no one knew anything, and no one questioned the heavy smoke that was coming out of the chimneys. I think I didn't mention that I saw the ovens that had been used for, what is the word?
For crematoria.
The crematorium, yes. I didn't see any of the rooms that were used for gassing because it was just too large an area to be looking through.
Did you see any remains
I
of
saw
prison?
skeletal remains near the ovens. The ovens were all lined in brick with steel doors.
How did your fellow soldiers react to this experience?
It was just a complete silent reaction. Everyone turned ash white. There was no conversation for maybe an hour.
It's like a funeral.
Yes. And there was no conversation from the people that were carrying off the bodies. There was just this terrible, deadly silence. It was too unbelievable.
It is macabre, ghost-like.
In fact, I would say that after so many years, the most horrible thing I remember about my entire war experience was Nordhausen.
I think you have some pictures of that. Maybe you could tell us describe these pictures here.
Well, as you can see in the pictures, there's an enormous number of dead bodies lying there. And like I mentioned earlier, they had all been shot dead. In the foreground are some of the people from the town that are starting to take the bodies away.
And they're shot from the rear?
Yes, they were all shot in the back of the head.
Now, who took these pictures?
I took these pictures with a baby brownie camera that I had in my duffel bag at the time.
And you showed these pictures when you came back to the States? Did people believe that such things happen?
Well, by then everyone believed that this was a close-up I took of one of the bodies being removed for burial. As you can see, they were quite skeletal at the time that they were killed. It's very unlikely that many would have lived had they not been shot, but I'm sure that a number would have.
2,000, over 2,000.
About 2,400 to 2,600.
Were there, the Germans kept meticulous records. Were there books with their names in them?
I never found out about that because we had to move on and there were others that came along.
How long did you actually stay here?
24 hours,
You made an
maybe
impression
30 hours.
for the rest of your life.
Yes, indeed.
And what's happening? Oh, these are more pictures.
There, you can see some of my buddies as well. And as a matter of fact, I don't see any of the townspeople in this picture.
You know, in other pictures that we see in concentration camps, we see naked bodies where people have died or have been taken out of the crematorium, but it's obvious that these people were clothed and just shot.
Yes, these people were mostly dressed.
These are the townspeople?
These are the townspeople.